Well, the provincial government will be making a formal apology later this year for its treatment of children from a religious sect in the Kootenays. From 1953 to 1959, hundreds of children were confined to a makeshift school in New Denver after the province seized them from their parents. But the apology is not seen as an entirely positive development. Justin McElroy joins us live now on this story. Justin, who were these children and why did the government take them from their parents?
Anita, they were children of a group called the Sons of Freedoms, an offsplit of the Doukhobors, a Russian immigrant religious sect that saw thousands of its members immigrate to BC's Kootenay region at the start of the 20th century. Now, over the decades, their protests against the government involved bombings, arson, and nudity. In retaliation, the province eventually forced their children into a school where they could only see their parents through a chain-link fence. You're seeing some of those pictures right now from a documentary that we made at the time, at which time BC's Attorney General made no apologies for their actions.
It's not a failure of the Society of British Columbia to adapt to the Sons of Freedom. It is rather a failure of the Sons of Freedom to adapt to British Columbia. And that failure is marked by police reports, which I get every week. New Denver will be maintained as long as parents deny their children the opportunities that other children are supposed to have under the law of the province.
That was then. The school was shut down in the late 1950s and the children returned. And in the late 1990s, the BC ombudsperson at the time led an extensive investigation and called for a formal apology and compensation. That didn't happen, but today, 25 years after that original report, the current ombudsperson, Jake Schock, announced that the government will be providing a formal apology at the end of this year.
Okay, and you might expect that to bring some level of closure to things. So why isn't this actually seen as a full resolution, Justin?
In short, money. When the ombudsperson did this review in the 1990s, they called on compensation for the children and families affected, given the psychological harm involved. The BC government has committed to an apology, but not compensation, which Clark did say could hypothetically involve hundreds of people.
Various people have speculated that there's in the neighborhood of 70 to 100 survivors still alive. But of course, there are families for all of the 200 former children who were apprehended, and certainly they've experienced that intergenerational trauma. And certainly we said at the time back in '99 and say again that the community itself was harmed by this. Some part of that compensation ought to be directed to the community more generally.
Obviously much for the government to consider here, but an apology is something many in the Sons of Freedom community have been asking for a long time, and a new chapter in what is seen by many as a dark part of this province's history.
Justin McElroy reporting live tonight. Thank you.